कि उनको कैसे ग्रो करना है, राइट?
Hello everyone, welcome to the second class of YouTube revisions with me, Janki Panchal, and powered by IIC Lakshya. And we are doing SBL, ACC SBL Day 2 revision. So, in yesterday's class, if you notice, what did we do? According to my yesterday's example, we saw the manual of swimming, right? Today, we are going to go into the baby pool. That means we are going to do two small questions which are related to the two topics that I taught you yesterday, managing strategic change and leading and managing a project, right? So, two questions which are relevant to them are going to be shown to you in the class today, as in how to approach the question, right? And tomorrow, we will be going into a big pool where we are going to do 100 marker question where they are going to be there's going to be more content, there's going to be bigger scenario, and that is what you're going to pick up, right? Now, when we talk about an organization, and when we talk about an organization in exam paper, right? You're going to get a hypothetical situation. Okay, so it's not obvious, it's not always necessary that it'll be relatable to something that you have faced earlier in your exams or in your daily lifestyle, right? I'm going to show you two questions today. First question is based on managing strategic change, which is something which is related to the modern era of working with pharmacies, right? Which we normally do nowadays. And the second one is a hypothetical situation. Now, I have picked up these two questions for you to explain just to show you that it's not always necessary that the details that you will get in your pre-seat material or in your examination might be related. So stop assuming on what will come, right? This is a key to stop assuming what will come. Okay. Always take the question as it is. Familiarity with the question has to be done before you actually get into it. And reading the question requirements is super essential. Okay, so with that in mind, we should start reading this question. I'm going to go super slow in terms of reading it. At the same time, I want to assure that whenever I'm going to finish up a paragraph, I'm going to explain it to you. We are going to get pre-seen material 15 days before the examination, right? So we've got a lot of time to read it, understand it, make it our own notes, right? Whatever we should do, we could do, we should be doing with the questions, right? Now, the question here is a 28 marker question, right? So, say about one third of what question you should be getting in the exam, right? And it is about this company called Pharmacy Systems International, PSI. Just a second. Retail pharmacies supply branded medicinal products such as headache and cold remedies, as well as medicines prescribed by doctors. Customers expect both types of products to be immediately available, and so this demands efficient purchasing and stock control in each pharmacy. That's what pharmacies do, right? Pharmacies are mostly used by people not for leisure like FMCG, right? You don't stock up on medicines if you don't require it, right? So normally what happens or how the pharmacy business works is, suppose if I'm sick, which I'm not and I don't want to be, if I am sick, I'll go to the doctor, he'll prescribe me medicines, I will go to the pharmacy, I'll pick up my medicines and I'll come back, right? So this is the normal procedure. That means whatever I would require from a pharmacy, which is ideally medicines, right, should be available with the pharmacy, but not overstock because the expiry is an issue, not understock, otherwise your customers would leave you. And there are certain diseases which needs a continuous flow of medicines like diabetes, hypertension, thyroid, right? So which to keep the body in control with certain levels, you have to have medicines on a continuous basis for maybe the lifetime, right? So The work of pharmacies, the industry knowledge from a bird's eye view is very, very important, right? And that is what I'm trying to do it right now. Here, as any pharmacy does, customers expect both type of products to be immediately available, right? Something that is, basic such as, basic like headaches and cold, or something prescribed by the doctor. That means something which is or which can be purchased from the counter directly, or something that can be prescribed by the doctors. The retail pharmacy industry is increasingly concentrated in a small number of nationwide pharmacy chains, although independent pharmacies continue to survive. The pharmacy chains are increasingly encouraging their customers to order medicinal products online, and the doctors are being encouraged to electronically send their prescription to the pharmacy so that they can be prepared, ready for the patients to collect. Right? So, retail pharmacies are now increasing and making their own chains of pharmacies. Right? And the pharmacies are also encouraging customers to order the products online, right? Now, what happens when you order products online? How is this good for a pharmacy? They will know what they have to give you, right? With that, that overstocking, understocking problem is somewhere eliminated, right? And also, the pharmacy is intimated of what kind of medicine the customer would require, right? For example, if my prescription directly goes to the nearest pharmacy, there are chances I might not immediately go and take the medicine. I might go in the evening, maybe give them like 2, 3 hours before they finish up and get the medicines for me. So this can be, I'm so sorry. So this can be something that is how the scenario works. Pharmacies, chains of pharmacies, pharmacies encouraging patients to order online. So even they get a buffer time to get the products ready. Now let's see what is this company's role, Pharmacy International's role. So Pharmacy System International, PSI, is a privately owned software company which has successfully developed and sold a specialized software package meeting the special needs of retail super pharmacies. PSI's state objective is to be highly skilled professional company providing quality software service and to the retail pharmacy industry. Over the last 3 years, PSI has experienced gradual growth in revenue profitability and in market share. So when we talk about this organization, PSI, it is a privately owned software company which is making specialized software packages for retail pharmacies. Specialized packages of software for retail pharmacies, right? This is the job of PSI, which is our hero company on which the questions are going to be revolving. And they have also given their financials for the last 3 years. Okay, so it moves like this. The revenue, if you see, for 20 was 10,350, 21 10,760, 22 11,700. Profit, if you see, has also increased. Market share has increased, and number of employees has also increased, right? So all over we can see there is a growth, there is a progress, there is a addition to value for the organization. PSI has 3 directors, each of whom has a significant ownership stake in the business. So the CEO is a natural entrepreneur with a past record of identifying opportunities and taking the necessary risk to exploit them. In the last 3 years, he has curbed his natural enthusiasm for growth of PSI as consolidated its position in the marketplace. So the CEO, now we are understanding the characters of the CEOs that are available here, right? So one of the CEOs has 3 directors, and we are understanding the character of the CEO. Okay, so the CEO is a natural entrepreneur, and from the information given here, we can find out that he's a risk-seeking person, right? He wants to find out what are the risks and he wants to exploit them. And it is seen in the growth that the company PSI is making in the last 3 years. Now he feels that the time is right to expand the business to a size and profitability that makes PSI an attractive acquisition target and enables the directors to realize their investment in the company. So now it's the time where the company feels that it needs to grow, right? And it needs to realize its investment in the company. Now, what does this term mean? Realize their investment in the company. It basically means that PSI CEO is now looking for a prospected bidder, acquirer to take this company forward so they can get their investment back that they have given in this company. He has a natural ally in sales and marketing director. Now, sales and marketing is the second director that the company has, right? And both feel that PSI needs find new national and international market to fuel its growth. The software development director, however, does not share the CEO's enthusiasm of this expansion. Right now, the problem here is there are three directors. The first one is the CEO, who is a risk seeking person. He has seen the growth in past 3 years and he is looking for a prospective bidder, acquirer to take over this company so their investment can be realized. Also, he feels that the company needs a national and international exposure, which maybe with what the resources the organization has would not be fulfilled. Then the second fellow, which is the sales and marketing director. He is in agreement with the CEO. But the third director, software development director, however, does not share the CEO's enthusiasm for this expansion. The CEO has proposed that the growth can be best achieved by developing a generic software package which can be used by wider general retail industry. Now the CEO has got one more intention. So CEO says that we need to get a generic package, right? That means right now what the company is doing, the company is only looking for bespoke clients, right? The company is looking for bespoke clients. But now what the company is doing, the company is looking for generic products. So the company wants to make mass production. PSI originally started by making products which are bespoke for retail pharmacies. Now the CEO says that the company needs to make a generic software package which can be used in general retail industry. That means every retail industry should use it or could be used or can be marketed, any of these things. That means going from a specific product to a specific industry, the CEO is visioning to take a generic product and sell it pan all the industries. His plan for the company to take this current software package and take out any specific references to the pharmaceutical industry. This generic package could be extended and configured for their retail sectors. CEO is visioning for the retail sectors. The pharmaceutical package would be retained, but it would be perceived and marketed as a specialized implementation of the new generic package. So now they want to completely change their selling strategy, right? Coming out from generic products, coming out from not generic product, coming out from bespoke specific products for pharmacies. They want to diversify into generic product, generic industries. Apart from that, the pharmaceutical package would be retained, but it would be perceived and marketed as a specialized implementation of the new generic package. Right? So it's going to be an implementation to the new generic package. This proposed change in strategic direction is strongly resisted by the software development director. Right? Now, as I said, even in the earlier paragraphs, we saw that the company was very much okay for selling the products which were generic and for all industries, but this was only approved by two directors. And they also want a acquirer who can acquire them and expand. So that was done by the sales and marketing and the CEO. But the software developing director doesn't actually want this. This proposed change in the strategic decision is strongly resisted by the software development director. He and his team of software developers are under constant pressure to meet the demands of the existing retail pharmacy customers. Online ordering of medicinal products and electronic dispatch of prescriptions are just two examples of constant pressure that PSI is under from their retail customers to continuously update its software packages. Just a second. Yeah, just a minute. This proposed change in strategic direction, as I said, is something which the software development director is not completely agreeing to. And why he is not agreeing to this? Because he is the one, actually, see, when we talk about a software company, software making company, the techies or the people who are in the software delivering or developing, they are like the backbones of the organization, right? And there might be some reason, right? So why the director doesn't want to grow? And the reason for that is the online ordering of medicinal products and electronic dispatch of prescription are just two examples of constant pressure that PSI is getting so far, right? PSI already cannot handle the amount of work that they have currently, right? And is under from their retail customer to continuously update its software package to enable the pharmacies to implement technical innovations that improve customer service. So while the sales and marketing and the CEO are focusing more on growth and sales and more profits and international exposure and a good acquirer, the software development director is focusing on the core product, right? His problem is that the whatever pressure they are getting right now from the medicinal products which are being coming online is not resolved. And at this stage, if the company wants to expand, it becomes difficult, right? Now, the job of sales and marketing, or for example, see, if I am a baker, okay, I'm a sales and marketing head of one of the bakeries, for example, right? If I go and order 50, if I go and, get orders for 50 cakes, but in the back end, if the chefs cannot make it, do you think the company is going to make up for all the orders that have been placed? No. Customers will be dissatisfied. Chefs will be frustrated. Business will not go long. I mean, the stretching of efforts might not go on a daily basis, right? And that is what the software developer development director is focusing on. He's saying that he cannot handle the team cannot handle the pressure that is still there with the company. Ideally, the software development director would like to acquire further resources to develop a more standardized software package for their current customers. He is particularly annoyed by the PSI salesman continually committing the company to producing a customized software solution for each customers and promising delivery dates of the software delivery team struggle to meet. So now the actual challenge or why the resilience comes is seen here. Software development director would like to acquire further resources to develop more standardized software packages for their current customers. That means he most wants to focus on what customers they have currently. He is particularly annoyed by the team, the sales team, for committing the company to produce a customized software for each customer and promising delivery dates that are struggling to be met. In an organization, this is normal, right? The sales team would feed more than they could chew or bite on, and the backend team always suffers because they can't handle it, right? And the same issue is something which we are seeing here. Frequently, the software contains faults that require expensive and time consuming maintenance. Consequently, PSI is being increasingly criticized by the customers. I mean, but of course, because the salesmen are committing something else, the company is not able to deliver, there are hitches in the existing software and customers. A recent user group conference expressed considerable dissatisfaction with the quality of the PSI package and doubted the company's ability to meet the published deadlines for a new release of the software. Right? A short and sweet scenario. Don't expect such a small scenario if you're doing SBL for the first time. The scenarios are way bigger than this. But I didn't really wanted to directly jump on a big question and make it scary for you, right? So I selected two questions on the topics that we discussed. Once we understand the question, it's once we understand the scenario, it's very important to understand the question properly, that what the question is asking, right? And then we can deal with the answer part, right? So understanding the scenario, 30 to 40% of the scenario understanding can be easily done when we get the pre-seed material. In the exam, we got to focus on the exhibits. In the exam, we got to focus on the questions actually asked. Let's see what the question says here. The proposal to develop and sell a software package for the retail industry represents a major change in the strategy of PSI, which is very obvious. Analyze the nature, scope, and type of this proposed strategic change for the PSI. Right now, we know what the scenario was talking about. We know how the directors are not, or maybe they have got a difference of opinion in how they want the company to be functioning. Right here, the question is, if the company makes and develops those generic kind of softwares, how would that change the strategy for PSI? What do you need to do? You need to analyze the nature of the change, scope scope of the change, how much change is going to affect the company, and the type of this proposed strategic change to PSI. Now, when we talk about the nature, right, or when we talk about a strategic change, there were certain models that we did yesterday. We did a JSW managing change model. We did a resistance model by Kurt Levin. We did a Cotter and Schlesinger, which was focused on leadership. And we did a Bologan and Hope Haley, which was focused on conceptual or contextual changes, right? Here, the question here is where you don't have a closed end. The question is not asking you to use a particular model or even use a model, right? So you are open to more information, more generic information, but specific to the question that is asked. Analyze the nature, right? So what kind of change do you think this is? What kind of change does this show? I'm in a market selling a kind of product. I'm going to a different market, selling a different kind of product. Diversification, right? I'm diversifying the way I am portraying to my clients. Nature, scope. When we talk about scope, what is the scope of changes? Does the company need it right now? Does the company have financial issues? That's why it is changing itself. Or if the company wants a bidder to take it off, does the company or is the company ready for getting ruled by somebody else? Types of proposed strategic changes. Now, we have done them yesterday, right? There were certain managing change terms that we use, like revolution, evolution, adaptation, etc. Right? Here, when you are having a product, like you're still into software, right? You're still into software, you're still making software, right? But now your segment is shifting, right? So, what type of change that is? That is what the question is asking, right? As I said, understanding the question is super important. You need to understand what you're going to write about. Because if you just write, in fact, just seeing at the question, if you're not prepared, you might have thousands of permutations and combinations coming to your head. And most important, focus on the marks that are given here, right? Focus on the marks. 8 marks. Don't think this is 12 marks. This 4 marks can only be achieved if you are going to demonstrate analysis skills, investigating the nature, scope, and type of this proposed strategic change, right? So these 4 marks are dependent upon how you justify these 8 marks. Never take this as a clubbed marks, right? Next question also will have this kind of thing. 12 plus 4, 16. It is just 12 marks. Justify those 12 marks, 4 marks will run behind it, right? But if you overfeed the informations in your answer, what happens? One, your answer is going to be bulky and time consuming. And third, you might not have time to finish the whole paper. Okay. And to reduce that, it is important that we only focus on the marks that is awarded to the main question. Nature, scope, type. Before I go to the solution, let me tell you one thing. Whatever answers you see in today's class, tomorrow's class, on ACCA Study Hub, in practices, CBE platform, they all are very good answers. Okay, very good answers. They are not made in a time constraint of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, right? So, whenever you see your answer, like the answer that I'm going to show you right now, it might have extensive data. In your exam, don't try to replicate this data. Take references from it. References in terms of how to structure, references in terms of the language, references in terms of the format, reference in the terms of the body of the answer, reference in the terms of the length of the answer, right? If you see this one, you might not be able to write such a long answer in your examination because you might not think so instinctively. But in terms of length, you'll get an idea that, okay, I can't at least write one paragraph and come out of it, right? I need to justify my 8 marks, right? So I tell students that it's an open book. You can go to your ACCA Study Hub, check the practice questions. This is, in fact, one from the ACCA Study Hub only. You can go through your any publications if you are referring to. You can go through your ACCA CBE platform and see the answers. But don't try to be overshadowed by those answers, right? And to reduce that overshadowing and that kind of anxiety which you have when you look at a big answer, you should be trying the answers yourself, right? You should first make your own pointers. Of course, the answers can't be in a pointer, but when you are reading the question, you can make your own little notes, pointers, and then you can elaborate it, right? So do that for yourself. Okay, don't stand on the mercy of the answers that are given in any answer sheet. Make your own answers. Try your own answers. See how long does it take to make your own answer. It will improve your spontaneity because in the exam you need to be spontaneous. Otherwise, those 3 hours and 15 minutes will go like this. Okay, so you need to be fast. You need to think when the question comes in front of you, right? Let's look at this answer. As I said, you should not be doing or copying or replicating them. Strategic change analysis, again, talking about the nature, scope, and type. So, sticking to what question is asking. The proposal to develop and sell a software package for the general retail industry represents a major strategic decision for PSI. Up till now, it has been relatively successful in identifying and servicing the software needs of a specialist niche market, which is the retail pharmacy. In Michael Porter's term, it is currently a focus differentiator. It is proposed entry into the general retail market, both a new product and new market. So it is going to be, according to ends of matrix, the diversification strategy. So currently, because the company is selling bespoke products in pharmacy, it is a focus differentiation. It is working in a industry where it is giving bespokes. Now we don't know if anybody else. Bespoke means not off the shelf. It means specifically made for someone. Okay. So right now it is a focus differentiation because it is making its own space in the pharmacy retail world. When it shifts from there to somebody else or some other market or some other product, it is technically becoming a diversification, right? Because the market is changing, the product is changing. Still softwares, but now not bespoke, but generic softwares. The proposal would lead to significant strategic change and perhaps not surprising is meeting resistance from the software development director who is responsible for a key activity in this change. Right? So the proposal here is leading to significant strategic changes and it is not meeting resistance with the software development director. Obviously, he's got his own challenges. That's why he's not agreeing to this. In your exam, you might not strike up to ends of matrix, you might not strike up to the Porter's model, right? It's not necessary, right? You need to, I mean, this will improvise. Obviously, when you read an answer, you will improvise. Okay, this is how I can, put up bits and pieces of different models and show off my knowledge there. But it does not mean that it has to be there to improvise. Diversification is something which was just visible, right? That's why I use that term. GSW argues that there is a danger in believing that there is only one way or one best way to change organizational strategies. They believe that most strategies are profoundly influenced by earlier strategies and their success or failure. Consequently, strategies are often incremental in nature, adding to or adapting previous or existing strategies. Rarely is the proposed change so fundamentally that it challenges the business model and the processes and activities that support it. Right. So when we talk about the challenges that are happening here, the strategies are having or are often incremental, right? Because every company, as I said yesterday also, every company needs to go from where it started to where it wants to reach, right? Otherwise, it is not going to enjoy the same market share or position that it is enjoying right now. Let's take the simple example of Nokia. Say 20 years ago, Nokia was in everybody's hand in India. Do you see Nokia anymore? You don't. Why? Things didn't work around with the strategies. Everybody else moved to QWERTY pens. Nokia did not. Everybody moved to touchscreen. Nokia was late. Strategies, reacting to strategies is late. So sometimes a company who is a market player ends up becoming no one in the market. Same thing goes here. Strategies are often incremental in nature, adding to or adopting previous or existing strategies. Rarely is the proposed change so fundamental that it challenges the existing business model and processes and activities that support it. JSW make use of a model developed by Bulligan and Hope Haley, which identifies four types of change which have very different strategies of impact. It is suggested that there are two key measures of change: nature and scope. This is something which is a part of the Bullock and Hope Haley model. If you notice, even this is taken into a proportion of a little bit of it, right? Nature of change. How big is the change? Is it incremental? It is step by step, right? Changes do not challenge the existing way of doing things and may indeed reinforce organization process. It is therefore likely to meet less resistance than Big Bang or quantum change, right? If the company is already making softwares, now what it does need to make generic softwares, more industries, incremental, step by step, shifting. It's not like I'm making softwares today and tomorrow I'm selling cakes, right? That's a Big Bang, but this is not. Big Bang change is necessary to respond to a crisis facing the firm, such as a major fall in profitability or appointment of a new CEO. But this is not the case right now. The scope of change process is important. How much of the firm's activities are to be changed? If the change does not alter the basic business model, it is regarded as a realignment or strategy rather than a fundamental change in strategic directions. However, if the proposed change is a radical challenge to the existing business model or paradigm, then it is regarded as a transformational change. The consideration of two key measures that are needed here now, shifting from the nature, the scope to the type. What kind of change is this? Right? According to the JSW managing change model, there are the two by two grid that I showed you yesterday has got four types: adaptation, reconstruction, evolution, and revolution, right? Adaptation, if you remember, is the one that is made in the current business model. Basically, you change the way it is, but in an incremental way. Reconstruction is a change in organization often prompted by crisis such as unwelcome taking or takeovers, right? Evolution is a change in strategy, which is more likely to be the case with this organization because the strategies are changed, but there is not a drastic shift. And revolution affects the whole of the organization, and scope of change requires a fundamental shift in the business model. In your examination, you don't need to write all four of them, right? It's a 8 mark question. You can't be so elaborative, right? So you can stick to which one you believe is the one for managing the change and describe why you feel that is. Viewed dispassionately, it appears PSI's a proposed move to the general retail market represents a evolutionary change. Why? Because it is incremental. It will build on the skills, routines, and beliefs of those in the organization. However, it is transformational because the proposed move away from current market niche to a market which requires a generic solution is a fundamental change in the strategic direction. It is likely that internal processes and activities will need to significantly change for the company to successfully develop and sell the new packages. PSI's case, the evolution is driven top down, and the CEO's desire to create a company which is attractive, at which point he can realize some or all of his investment in the organization. Right? So, company's current position contradicts with what the CEO wants currently. The three directors may not perceive changes as evolutionary. The entrepreneurial CEO and sales marketing director may see the proposal as adoptive change, realigning the company to take advantage of the business opportunities, but which will lead to realizing their personal goals, which is finding a bidder, getting their investments out. Indeed, they may see the current product as just the specific implementation of generic retail software solution. In contrast, the software development director is more likely to agree with our assessment and call it a evolutionary change. Right? So even though we can identify that the company is moving towards evolution, because there are two directors who have got different mindsets than the third one, they might not consider this, or they might not consider the strategy that is going to be put up as a evolution. Right. The answer is big. As I said, you don't need to explain all four of them. I stick to what is asked and just answer that. In fact, you know what you can do in the exam is you can start writing an answer, finish like the main points of it, okay, and don't take any extra time on it. My time for the time that I normally suggest students for one mark is 1.5 minutes, right? So if you stick to the 1.5 minutes guideline, at the end of the paper, once you finish everything with the rule of 1.5, you end up saving about 30 minutes, right? So those 30 minutes can be used for enhancing answers if you want, but that should be done at a later stage, but not in the starting stage. Okay, right. Next question B. The success of any attempt at managing change will be dependent on the context in which the change takes place. Prepare a consultancy report for the chief executive officer, which identifies and analyzes using an appropriate model the internal contextual features that could influence the success or failure of this proposed strategic change for PSI. You have to make a consultancy report and give it to the CEO, which identifies and analyzes using an appropriate model of contextual features. Yesterday we did a question which was completely based on organizational contextual changes, which was called Bologan and Hope Haley's kaleidoscope. If you remember that blue circle that I showed you yesterday, which had a shape inside of a kaleidoscope, that is what this is pointing out to be written on. right? Now, this question is a very straightforward question, right? As much as it tells you to make a report, which is like a story that you need to pick up, it also is pointing out to use a particular specific model to answer this question, right? Focusing on the 12 marks, we would be looking at the middle or the internal contextual features, right? And answering this question, because it is a report, it will be in a report format with an introduction, body, and conclusion, right? Professional marks are available for demonstrating communication skills when informing the CEO of the internal contextual features. So let's start. Report with reports format. I told you yesterday, I gave you actually the list of things that are generally asked in the examination. So what you can do is you can find out the formats of them easily online. You would not need anybody's help, right? So keep those formats ready so you can use them. Introduction, as I said, report, introduction, body, conclusion. Introduction will talk about what this report is bringing out to the CEO, right? Now, if you see the introduction here, it is pretty elaborative and fancy with using one author's name and putting that in context, right? In exam, you might not strike this, right? So we can always play simple into it. As I said, you can't be overshadowed by other answers, but at the same time, you should take references because still we have one month before you give the exam, right? And this is the right time to start your preparation, isn't it? I've given you too many tips since yesterday. I'll give you some today. I'll give you some tomorrow also. As and when I remember, I'll give it to you. But the idea here is that you imply them. You've got 1 month, right? You imply them correctly into your answers. And I promise that your chances to pass will definitely increase than what you did before you saw this program, right? The small techniques, no, they help you to reach from 49, 48, 47 to 50, right? And anytime for a student in an exam, the aim should be two aims, two stages of aims. First stage, pass. Second stage, score. First, you score to pass, right? And then you score to get your ranks or your desired marks. Right. Here they are also talking about the GSW model or GSW's argument. Let's see what the introduction says. This report identifies and analyzes the internal contextual features that could influence the success or failure of your proposed strategic change for PSI. GSW argue that successfully managing change depends on context. This context is made up of a number of factors or contingencies, particularly to the organization under consideration. How change is managed is a relatively small privately owned firm like PSI is very different to how it might be managed in a large firm. And that is very obvious. Every company has got its own way of working. Right now, here we can see that the company doesn't have shares. I mean, it doesn't say it has shares, so assuming it doesn't, which also shows that it's a smaller company because it is looking for someone to take over, right? JSW uses the work of Bulligan and Hope Haley to consider the contextual features that need to be taken into account in deciding how a strategic change program should be managed. As we are going to only discuss the internal contextual factors, we are going to stick to them only, which is price. PSI is not facing any immediate financial or business problems. So there is no apparent need for a rapid change. Company has got, sorry, not price, time. Company has got enough time. It is also progressing, right? So it's not in, so it does not need to immediately look for a buyer. Doesn't even if it has got a financial crisis that we can figure out from this question, right? So time company has. Scope. The degree of change should not be underestimated in a relatively small firm like PSI. Supplying a clearly defined segment supported by a vertical marketing strategy is a very different to the horizontal marketing strategies. PSI has built up expertise in a niche market. It is unlikely that it will have comparable expertise in the generic market also, right? Right now, the number of customers that it has is small, Market is niche, right? It's very different to work in a generic market. It's completely a different ball game, and that is what it is trying to say in terms of scope. Preservation. Preservation means your key skills that the company has. Software company, what do we expect out of it? The techies, the software developers, right? They are the ones that need to be preserved. As of now, from the situation, we can figure out that the strategy development manager and his team is not very happy with the salespeople because they are just promising things which are just not possible. At the same time, customers are unhappy because their queries are not resolved, right? In this situation, what happens? Company needs to understand that there needs to be some help, some aid that goes out to the software developing team, right? And it's very important to retain them, preserve them, and prevent them from going to any other organization. Because, as I said, software is the backbone of this organization. Diversity. Change may be helped if there is a diversity of experience. However, change may be hampered if the organization has followed a particular strategy for a number of years. The relative stability of the last 3 years and the company's stated objective to be a highly skilled professional company providing quality software service are to the retail pharmacy industries seems to at odds of your visions of expansion, right? Companies diversity is something which it does not enjoy right now, right? It has been into a niche market as of now. There is also evidence that to suggest the goals of the sales force and those of the software developers are already conflicting, and there seems even more opportunities for this to occur in the context of generic retail software packages. Change will be hampered by the current conflict between sales and developments. Capabilities. Capabilities means what does the company have in terms of sources? How can it use it? Both you and the sales marketing director are entrepreneurial in outlook. Here, you is the CEO, and want to change to fuel the growth and your personal aspirations. The software development director is much less enthusiastic, obviously, in the proposed strategic change that the CEO is proposing. Over the last 3 years, the workforce has been relatively settled and has not been subject to significant changes. In some ways, the small size of the business may make change easy to facilitate, but there may also be significant barriers to change. On the other hand, the software development director and his staff are key people to the new strategy, and it may be difficult to overcome the lack of enthusiasm which currently they have. Right, so the capability they have, but the software guys and the department is not very happy with the whole situation. Capacity is concerned with resources such as people, finance, and info. More detailed analysis will be necessary to see if PSI has the necessary resources to implement the proposed change. Evidence from the scenario is not encouraging. PSI has been recently criticized by the user groups that they are not meeting their deadlines. They're not able to handle the existing members of the clientels. But there is no evidence that PSI has the finance to support the acquisition of new resources also, because if it is going to expand, it needs more money, right? Furthermore, it usually takes long time to integrate software develops into a business, and there is a long learning curve during which they have to learn not only how the product works, but how it is designed also, right? So going into a different market is also going to be a challenge. They'll need more people, they'll need more money, and at the same time, they've got still some obligations pending from their existing roles. Readiness, company is not ready, the CEO is ready, right? That is what we can know. They might be ready for it as a strategy, but in real working, the company is not ready. The ultimate power lays in the organization, is reinforced to, the CEO and the sales and marketing director because they're combined out of the three directors, right? You need to secure the cooperation of software guy also because he's the one who's going to be, as I said, the backbone of the organization. He needs to make the progress. If the company can't make a progress, that would be because the strategy development software development manager was not in the situation, agreeing to the situation. So, as I said, report needs a conclusion, right? So here we can conclude saying that even though CEO has got a power because he is in ally with the sales and marketing director, the software development manager or director needs to be approached and agreed upon the decision that the company makes. The company should also increase the staff members that goes into the software because software department is struggling. So once they are able to, so the software director feels that the department is having enough staff members and are able to handle the situations which are coming, then maybe the company can slowly shift to the generic point of view of generic softwares, expanding, take over, or any other decision that the CEO and the sales and marketing director wants to do, right? So this is how the answer should be shaping and moving towards the cause of the report itself, right? As I said, the answers here might look a little bigger because obviously they have taken time to do it, right? But spontaneity is something that you need, spontaneous behavior is something that you need in your examination. Give me 5 minutes. Let me just switch over to the next one. Hi all. So let's resume. Mm, The second question, the second part that we did was leading and managing project. Remember where we did project life cycle? This is a question based on it. Let's read it. Off-road. The town of Brighttown in Eurasia has a mayor elected every 5 years by the people in the town. And this mayor is the one who is responsible for, amongst other things, the transport policy of the town. A year ago, the mayor instigated as a instigated a traffic light project to reduce traffic congestion as traffic lights in the town, and rather than relying on fixed timing, he suggested that a system should be implemented which made the traffic lights sensitive to the traffic flow. Now, here, if you see, the mayors are the ones who are going to be, if you notice this question, they are the project sponsors, right? So they are the ones who are going to actually make decisions about what will happen in when they are as a ruling party, right? The mayor 1 year ago instigated this project called Traffic Light, which is going to make sensitive traffic lights. Now, what is a sensitive traffic light? Let's see. So, if a queue builds up, the lights would automatically change to green. The mayor suggested that this would have a number of benefits, right? So, sensitive as in, when there is a lot of traffic, then that will go green first and the others can wait until the traffic builds up there or the cars queue up there. Firstly, it would reduce harmful carbon emission, which happens when traffic is more at the areas near traffic lights. Secondly, it would improve the journey time for our vehicles, leading to drivers being less stressed, right? So whenever you leave your house nowadays, you look at Google Maps, right? You check where you have to reach, how much time it will take. But that depends upon the estimated time right now when maybe the traffic is less, right? So when you actually start the journey, you realize that maybe it's taking longer or lesser time, depend upon the shift in the traffic on the live system. Here, the second point or second advantage or benefit that the mayor is saying is almost pointing to the same direction. He's saying that it would make the drivers being less stressed. He also cited evidence from cities overseas where predictable journeys times had been attractive to flexible companies who could set themselves up anywhere in the country. He felt that the new system would attract such companies to the town. So here he's got three benefits, two benefits and one purpose, we could say. One, reducing the carbon emission. Two, to make sure that the drivers are less stressed and they can reach at a particular point of time in the time that is being expected. And third, if the prediction of the journey from point A to point B becomes more accurate, the town itself would be more attractive to people to start their own companies there, right? Because every company wants to have less traffic, so the commutation time is reduced. The Uranian government has a transport regulation agency called Off-Road. Part of off-road's responsibility is to monitor transport investment, and it was originally critical to the Brighttown traffic lights. That means so off-road is basically a transport regulation agency. When the mayor brought the idea of traffic light project, off-road was critical about it. That means off-road was not sure how the outcome would be. Because the project's benefits were intangible and lacked credibility, the business case did not include quantitative cost benefit analysis, and Offroad has itself published a benefit management process which classifies benefits in the following ways. So, when a proposal is being given or when a proposal is being approved by the project sponsors from the other stakeholders, it has to have a CBA analysis, right? Cost benefit analysis, which was not convincing when it came to the proposal of traffic light, which was given by the mayor. The financial benefit can be confidently allocated in advance of the project. Thus, If the investment will save, thus, if the investment will save 90,000 per year in staff cost, then this is a financial benefit. Now, if the traffic lights are sensitive and they would just move around with the traffics, right? There might be less staff that is required. So allocation of them would be reduced. Quantifiable benefit is a benefit where there is sufficient credible evidence to suggest in advance how much benefit will result from the project. This benefit may be financial or non financial. For example, energy savings from new buildings might be credibly predictive in advance. However, the exact amount of savings cannot be accurately forecasted. Measurable benefit is a benefit which can only be confidently assessed post implementation and so cannot be reliably predicted in advance. Increase in sales from a particular initiative is an example of a measurable benefit. Measurable benefits may either be financial or non financial. Right? So here the explanations are given of what benefits mean, but still there is no clarity, right? Clarity was never there from the mayor. Observable benefits are benefits which a specific individual or group will decide using agreed criteria and has been realized or not. Such benefits are usually non financial, improved staff morals, and might be an example of an observable benefit. Now, so this is what happened with the traffic light that was there. The regulation and the regulation policy, you know, regulators off road are not convinced with the mayor and the proposal. But since the mayor is the project sponsor, he might have been looking forward to go ahead with that decision. 1 month ago, the mayoral elections saw the election of a new mayor with a completely distinct transport policy with different objectives. Now, there is a new mayor that has come, and she wishes to address traffic congestion by attracting commuters away from their cars and onto public transport. Part of her policy is traffic light systems, which gives priority to buses. The town council owns buses which operate in town, and they have invested heavily in buses which are comfortable and have significantly lower emission than the conventional cars used by most people in the town. The new mayor wishes to improve the frequency, punctuality, and convenience of these business so that they tempt people away from using their cars. This will require more buses and more bus crews, a requirement with the major presence as being good for the unemployment rate in this town. It will also help the bus services meet the punctuality service level, which is published 3 years ago but has never yet met. A reduction in cars and an increase in buses will help us meet our target that the mayor claims. Now, here the mayor also wants to work towards the traffic congestion. But how does she propose it? She wants a separate importance given to local public transport, specifically buses, right? So she's saying that the priority should be given to buses. Town council has invested a lot into it. Overall, when more public transport is used, that will discourage the higher emission which individual cars or motorists have. The mayor said that once there was, like some time ago, buses used to be very punctual. So she wants to bring that swiftness in the service, that punctuality in the service again. And she also says that if the buses run, more number of buses run, then there will be reduction in the unemployment rate. Reduction in cars and bus and increase in the buses will help meet all the targets which the mayor has visioned, the new mayor. The mayor has also suggested a number of initiatives to discourage people from taking their cars into the town. Now, mayor has not done just one thing. She has also discouraged people to get their cars into the town. One, she's promoting buses. Second, she's making sure that the buses are promoted. Two things. She intends to sell two car parks for housing land, raising to 3,25,000. Now the land will become expensive if it has got two car parks. This will reduce the car park capacity from 1,000 to 800 car spaces per day. She also intends to raise the daily parking fee from $3 to $4, and the car occupancy currently stands at 95. It is difficult to achieve 100 for technical reasons. And the same occupancy rate is expected when the car park capacity is reduced. So, if new houses are taken with more number of car parking facility, that's going to be expensive. Car parking tickets are going to be expensive, and the reduction in the number of cars will be by 200. The new mayor believes that her policy signals the fact that Brighttown is serious about its green credentials. That means less carbon emission, going green. This, she says, will attract green customers to come and live in our town and green companies who set up here. These companies and consumers will bring big benefits to our community. To emphasize this, she has set up a Go Green team to encourage great initiative in the town. The traffic light project, the earlier one, to tackle congestion proposed by the former mayor is still in the development stage. The new mayor believes that this project can be modified to deliver her vision and still be ready on the date promised by her precedor. The sensitivity in the traffic lights logic remains same, but the purpose of the earlier mayor and the new mayor is totally different. Still, she says that because the logic remains same, the product can be ready as per the promised time. Okay, I think there are more questions here. See, there are three questions here. There is one small question. A terms of reference project initiation document project charter was developed for the traffic light project to reduce the traffic congestion. Discuss what changes will have to be made to this terms of reference, like an initiation document and charter, to reflect the new mayor's vision of the project. To understand this, we need to understand what is the old mayor's vision and what is the new mayor's vision. As I said earlier, the old mayor's vision here is to make sure that company, sorry, the town is focusing on reducing carbon emission, which can eventually lead to a more accurate estimated time of arrival from destination A to B, and this will promote more companies to come and start working in the town and obviously increase employment. Now, this is the old mayor. The new mayor says that countries, town, the town should focus more on public transport, specifically buses. Companies, why am I saying companies, not companies? It's the town, right? So this town is going to focus more on having public transport, it's going to have buses, and assuring that the existing motorists or car drivers are suppressed of using their cars and making sure that the public transport is used more, which will increase the employment of bus drivers and other people who are required for it. The new mayor also visions that if if the mayor's government is looking for green consumers or green companies to come in their town, they would be happy seeing that there is a reduced carbon emission, there is more use of public transport, and when obviously more public transport is used, you would notice that the traffic will also reduce. So, all these are her perspective, right? Now, putting these two things in mind, the question is how the PID and the project charter will differentiate. But if you notice, only a 4 marks question. So 1 point explained correctly for each of them, job done. You see the answer here, it's going to be big, right? But we need to be concise in what we are writing. Let's go through it. From the perspective of the traffic light project, the change in the mayor has led to an immediate change in the objectives of driving the project. This illustrates how public sector projects are susceptible to sudden external environmental change outside their control. The project initially proposed to reduce traffic congestion by making traffic lights sensitive to traffic flow. It was suggested that this would improve journey times for all vehicles using the roads of Brighton. However, the incoming mayor now wishes to reduce traffic congestion by attracting car users onto public transport. However, she wants to develop traffic light system which will give opportunity to buses to move faster. This could ensure that the buses run on time. The project is no longer concerned with the reducing journey times of all users. Indeed, congestion for private cars may get worse because now she is making it difficult for the motorists in various areas so that they are discouraged to take their private vehicles and use the public transport. An important first step would be to confirm that the new mayor wishes to be the project sponsor of the project because the project has lost its sponsor, which was the earlier mayor. The project scope also needs to be reviewed. The initial project was essentially a self contained technical project aimed to producing a system which reduced queuing the traffic. The revised proposal has much wider political scope and is concerned with discouraging car users and improving public services. There is also proposal to increase car parking charges, to reduce the number of car park spaces, and to increase the frequency, quality, and punctuality of the buses. The project scope appears to have been widened considerably, although this will have to be confirmed with the new project sponsor. Only once the scope of the revised project has been agreed can revised project objectives be agreed and a new project plan developed, allocating the resources available to the project to tasks required to complete the project. It is at this stage that the project manager will be able to work out of the proposed delivery date and is still manageable. If it is not, then some kind of arrangement will have to be made to be forged with the project sponsor. This may be to reduce the scope of the project, add more resources, or some combinations of the two. So, all in all, because the both visions of the mayors is different, there is going to be a change, and this change needs to be looked forward into how it is to be managed, right? So, these are certain things that have to be focused on, that has to be brought forward in terms of understanding the whole situation. But if you see this answer, very, very elaborative, we need to bring it down to a 4 marks question, right? So maybe a point on, let me just scroll it up, maybe like a point on project initiation document and a point on project charter, and the job is done, right? Here we have got elaborative answer. As I said earlier, don't be overwhelmed, don't be overshadowed by the answers that are given here. We need to be more concise in what we want to do, right? Next, the new mayor wishes to redefine the business case for the project using the benefits categorization tag suggested by off-road. Identify cost and benefits for the revised project, classifying each benefit using the guidance provided by the off-road. What is here now? If you remember initially when the first project was incepted, there was no proper cost benefit analysis, right? But now off-road is looking for a cost benefit for the revised project. And we have some numbers also, so we can find out those answers. It's a 10-marker question where your commercial acumen skill will be tested. And how much do you understand by cost and benefit is also being tested. Financial, we can figure out the company is saving, right? The first financial benefit is the financial benefit of 3,25,000, which is the higher price of having two car parks. The second is income increase from the public buses because people will be encouraged to take more buses and the bus fare is going to be collected. Increased income from the car park because earlier it was $3, now it is going to be $4. Even though the number of cars will reduce, from 1,000 to 800, you would notice that still the town's mayor or the government is going to get more money. Improved punctuality of buses, because obviously if they are going to be prioritized in the traffic signals, they would be, reaching spaces at a faster time period. Definitely reducing the carbon emission because less cars and more buses. Perception of the overall town would change. People would be more enthusiastic, more conscious about how to go green and how to preserve the environment rather than using their own individual vehicles to drive forward. So these are certain benefits that you can pick up. The cost would be cost of purchasing more buses, operational cost for having, buses working, cost with the disposal of the car parks which they have already made, and cost associated with slowing down the drivers, both economically and emotionally. Because the individual car driver is very difficult for them to move from driving their own car at their own comfort to waiting for the bus at the bus stop, right? You try doing it sometime. I know it's very challenging. If I'm driving and I have to take a bus somewhere, I'm like, oh God, I have to wait for the bus, right? But yeah, that this kind of shift is something which is non-quantifiable, but definitely this is a cost to the overall decision. A technical implementation requirement of the project will also change. And this is almost certain to have cost implications because a solution will have to be developed which allows buses to be prioritized. A feasibility study will have to be commissioned to examine whether such a solution is technically feasible. And if it is, the cost of the solution will have to be estimated and entered into the CBA. Nice question, yeah? Next one, last one. Stakeholder management is the prime responsibility of the project manager. Discuss the appropriate management for each of the following three stakeholders identified in the revised project. So we have three things here. We have got the new mayor, we have got the off-road, and the private motors. These are the three stakeholders when the decision of shifting to buses would come, right? Here we need to figure out that how stakeholders would be identified. Stakeholder sparks a bulb in my head, which is the stakeholders analysis. We have only one model, which is the Mendelow's matrix, right? So here we will be using the Mendelow's matrix and figure out that which stakeholder stands where, right? Before going there, let's do our own little assumptions or guessing. New mayor, definitely she has got a lot of power and a lot of interest, right? So she can be a key player, right? Off-road can have more power and less interest because they are a regulatory, they're into regulations and they might not be interested so much into this bright town because it might be one of the part of their jobs, but definitely they've got a high power because if they don't approve any proposals, it's not going to go further, right? So they can be high power and less interest. The third one is the private motorist. Now, if you see the private motorist individually, maybe they have got less power but more interest, right? If these motorists, the individual motorists, if they all come together, then definitely it is going to be more power and more interest, right? So the shifting can happen depending upon what are we talking about. Are we talking about one private motorist individually or like the whole towns, right? Very nice six marker. So 2 marks at an average for each question. You need to demonstrate your analysis skills by reflecting on appropriate management of each stakeholders group. So, as I said, for stakeholders, we don't have a lot of options, right? We have got our good old Mendelow's matrix. Incoming mayor, as I said, high power, high interest. Mayor is a key player in the project, should be carefully and actively managed throughout. The mayor is currently enthusiastic about the project, and this enthusiasm has to be sustained. As the likely project sponsor, it will be the mayor's responsibility to promote the project internally and to make resources available to it. It will also be able it will also be up to her to ensure that her promised business benefits are actually delivered. However, she's also a person who can cancel the project at any time because she's the one who is in power, and definitely she needs to show what she's going to do with the town in the 5 years that she is given. So, high power, high interest, 100%. Off-road, a government agency, was critical to the previous major's justification project for the project. They felt that the business case was solely based on intangibles and lacked credibility. It is likely that they will be more supportive to the revised proposal because now the cost and benefits are very peculiarly properly analyzed and mentioned. The proposal uses the classification of benefits which it has suggested. The proposal includes tangible benefits which can confidently be included on a cost benefit analysis. Off-road is likely to have high power, but relatively low interest in this particular project as the town appears to be following its guidelines. An appropriate management strategy would be to keep watch and monitor the situation, making sure that nothing happens on the project which would cause the agency to take a sudden interest in it. And the private motorist, most of these have high interest because obviously they are driving and because it impacts them directly, but individually they have little power. As I said, individual motorists can't do anything. Now their chance to influence the government has passed. It'll come after 5 years, right? But all of these motorists, if they come together and protest and they are not happy with the increase in the car park fee or increase in the lands fee, then definitely the shift will be there, right? From keep informed, they can be key players. The suggested stakeholder management approach that is to keep informed. However, the response will have to be monitored. If they organize themselves and band together as a group, they might be able to stage disruptive actions, which might raise their power and have an impact on the project. This makes the point that stakeholders management is a continual process, as stakeholders may take up different positions in the grid as they organize themselves or as the project progresses. Right? Nice question. I really liked it. It is all about changes that have happened from the previous mayor to the new mayor, how the company's project, why am I saying company, not company? How does the governmental project, the town's project has been shifted to what it was, to what it is, going into the same genre of traffic lights, right? Wonderful. Nice. So let's quickly reflect on what we did today. We did two questions, one of each of the topics that I explained you yesterday. And the questions tried to have a lot of reference to the topic that was explained, right? So it gives you a little idea of what kind of question can come. But that never means, because in both the questions, if you notice, apart from the topics that were taught, there were other things also that could have been included, right? So like in the last question, we spoke about Ansoff matrix, we spoke about Michael Porter's, right? In this question, basically it's just a project question, but we also have a Menlow's matrix, right? My idea of showing you questions like this is every question does not have to be one track, right? You have got a vast amount of knowledge, vast amount of syllabus, right? Use it as far as it is fitting the puzzles, use it, right? So that is all for today. Tomorrow, we are going to again meet at 2 p.m. IST, Indian Standard Time, and we would be doing a mock paper together, right? It's not going to be a very elaborative one. Definitely, I would not say even a mock paper, like a sample paper, okay? And this paper is going to be a 100 marker with 4 exhibits, something which really comes in the exams nowadays. And we would be trying to handle it, but I would not go in reading the answer. Okay. Now I would explain you how to write, and maybe you can try answering yourself. Okay. So I'll see you all tomorrow. Happy studying and please focus. We have 1 month. I'm sure we can do it. Good luck.